Good morning, friends. This is Ramin Younessi. I would like to take a few minutes and discuss the issue of coverage under business interruption insurance with you. Unfortunately, a lot of businesses are hurting and they're suffering losses, including loss of income and additional expenses, ongoing rent, payroll, equipment lease, and so forth. And everyone is wondering if there is any way to get coverage. The very first question that must be answered is whether you have coverage or not. And I receive calls from many people who believe that they do not have coverage. What's important is do not pay attention to the title of your insurance policy and look at the contents. Many of insurance policies that contain only business liability insurance, which implies that only pays a third party, also contain some language providing for loss of business income. So once again, do not be fooled by just looking at the title. You must actually look at the contents of your policy. Now, if you do not have your policy, call your insurance agent and get a copy of it. Have them email you a certified copy. Do not suffice for just a copy. Get a certified copy because often there are endorsements, portions of the policy that are left out, and they come into play at a later point in time and they change everything. So once you have a certified copy of your policy, you got to look through it and see what's there. A typical insurance policy is anywhere from 550 to 500, 600 pages. So if you have some documentation, maybe 2, 3, 5, 10 pages, even 15 or 20 pages, that is typically just some notifications and your declaration page and not your complete insurance policy. So be sure to call and get a copy of your policy from your insurance agent and broker, and they have a duty to send that to you immediately. Now, once you get that insurance policy and you look through it and you come across, typically under the property damage portion of it, a provision for loss of business income, then the next question becomes, does that really pay for your loss of income under the present situation? Question becomes, if there is coverage, is that coverage triggered? Are the conditions of the policy met for you to get paid under the policy? Again, with 6,000 insurance companies out there, every one of these policies are written differently. But typically, in most instances, there are two types of conditions that trigger payment. One is physical damage or loss to the physical location of your business. And second is order of civil authority. I have seen countless denial letters from insurance companies claiming that there has been no physical damage to the places of business and therefore condition is not triggered. However, unfortunately, that is misleading because it's not only damage but also loss, and these policies often do not mention what physical loss is. So we are left to rely on what common sense is, and common sense would dictate loss could also mean loss of access. As a matter of fact, if you look up the word loss under any dictionary, often it talks about loss of possession, loss of custody, loss of ability to have something in your hands. It doesn't have to be permanent. So if you have been denied access to your place of business, either fully or partially, you may have triggered the condition of the policy. Also, there are additional coverages, as I mentioned, under the civil authority coverage. And of course, we have orders from anywhere from the federal government to the state to various counties and various cities. Those are a little trickier for a couple of reasons. Number one, the language of those orders are different. Some specifically point out certain businesses, such as gyms and nightclubs. Some do not, and only mention essential versus non-essential businesses. And the question becomes, what is an essential versus a non-essential business? I can tell you there's been major debates in the legal industry as to whether a law firm is essential or non-essential. And in my opinion, that question depends on what kind of service that particular law firm provides. So another reason why you would want to proceed under the first coverage, which is physical loss or physical damage as opposed to civil authority, is typically because under the first coverage, you're entitled to much broader coverage than the second. Typically under the physical loss, you get, with many of these policies, you get up to 12 months, maybe even 18 months of loss of earnings, whereas under the civil authority, you're limited to 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, and there are further conditions that makes it difficult to qualify under those policies. So now, once you get past the coverage, and assuming you do prove coverage, and it's going to be an uphill battle because insurance companies, by and large, are denying every single one of these claims, question becomes, are there any exclusions in your policy? Now, many policies have a virus exclusion, and again, insurance companies are claiming that your losses are as a result of a virus exclusion, as a result of a virus, and thereby excluded. Of course, that is not true. The insurance policy is written by an insurance company, and since you had no say in how it is written, the law places a burden on the insurance company to write the policy as clearly and in much detail as necessary. And if there's a question as to whether it was a virus that caused your loss, or is it the fear of the virus? Is it pandemic? Is it a lack of chain of supply? Is it an order of the government? Is it because your landlord forced you to close your business? Is it because of social distancing rules? Then that virus exclusion may or may not apply. Another interesting fact, I've come across a handful of policies that do not have a virus exclusion, they have a microbe exclusion. And the question becomes, is the coronavirus, is it a microbe? The answer is probably not, because a microbe is a living organism, and many microbiologists believe that a virus is not necessarily a living organism. So as you see, we're splitting hairs here, and every insurance policy must be analyzed in detail. So assume you do have the policy, conditions are triggered, and there are no exclusions. What are you entitled to? You have, again, to look at the language of these policies. Many have multiple sections of coverage. For example, many of these policies provide for expenses while you're shut down, such as payroll, such as rent, equipment lease, and so on. Some provide for extra expenses. What if you have to modify your premises now, place plexiglass, provide for social distancing, buy H1N1 masks, and so forth? Those may be covered under additional portions of your policy. Now, question becomes then, where do I go from here? The very first thing you should do is obtain a copy of your policy, place a claim, and in the very likely scenario that you are denied, because that is what by and large the industry is doing, hire the right law firm with the proper staff, the proper ability to file a lawsuit on your behalf, and do not expect to get paid overnight. Experience dictates that these claims would probably be tangled up in court for many, many years to come. And if you are looking to pay your expenses tomorrow through insurance coverage, in most instances, unfortunately, you're out of luck. That is the bad news. The good news is, even though there is nothing guaranteed in life, it is my humble opinion that we have a very good chance of prevailing in court in the long run and getting these policies covered. A couple of other concerns people have raised. One is about what if there's an executive order by the president, or what if there's legislation by various states? Would that make a difference? And the answer in those situations are those orders or such legislation will certainly be challenged in court by insurance companies as unconstitutional, as they will claim it is interfering with contract rights, a private contract right, and also private property rights, and they're in violation of two provisions of the US Constitution. And the answer is not clear. Under certain circumstances, the government has the right to interfere, but those rights are very limited. And if we were to get such orders, it is possible that it would even make the fight drag on for a longer period of time, and it will be a lengthy fight. Another question that has been asked is the insurance companies, the insurance industry capable of paying for all these losses? And that's a question that is to be answered on a case-by-case basis. Some of the larger insurance companies are clearly capable of paying for all these losses and surviving. Some other smaller ones may have a problem. But to the extent that you're dealing with an insurance company that may go into liquidation and not be able to pay for such damages, they may be covered by the state which you're in. For example, in California, California Insurance Guarantee Association guarantees each claim up to $500,000. So even if your particular insurance company may go under, the state may take over and may have a responsibility to pay. So once again, I urge you to obtain a copy of your policy, place your claim, and hire a good firm to help you proceed with your claim, as these will not be simple. If you need to call me, you can call me at area code 323-777-7777. I will be more than glad to answer any of your questions. Once again, that's area code 323, all sevens. And I wish you the best of luck in these difficult times. Stay healthy.